The Secrets of Star Trek is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek episode number 30.
Captain to bridge.
Spock here.
Make it so. Surrender is not an option.
Attention crew of the Enterprise, this is James Kirk.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon, what's beyond our own shores.
We would have helped you get home if you had asked. That's who Starfleet is.
Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Trek TV series, the movies, and all the rest. And today we're discussing Star Trek The Next Generation's, the episode from the 4th season called Clues. And joining me today to get a clue on the panel are Jimmy Akin. Hi, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
And Father Cory Stika. Hi, Father Cory.
Howdy, but I have no clue why I'm here.
It was Colonel Mustard in the drawing room.
Exactly.
Well, before we get started, remember, folks, please like Secrets of Star Trek on Facebook, on the SQPN Facebook page. If you go to the Facebook page, find the link to this episode and like it. Leave us a comment. Join the conversation. We love to hear from you. Get your feedback that way. Share the episode to your friends. Share it on Twitter as well. To get the news out. And if you don't subscribe to the show, if you're just like, say, going to the website and clicking the play button, try subscribing to it in the podcast app on your iPhone or one of the various podcatcher apps. You can subscribe in iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, like I said, your favorite podcast app. You can listen to it on TuneIn on your Amazon Echo device. Perhaps you got one for Christmas. You can listen on YouTube. And if you do, subscribe on YouTube. Click the bell to make sure you get notifications when a new episode gets posted. And above all, please share the podcast with your friends. Help us grow our community and reach more folks. I want to, as I briefly alluded to there, Happy New Year, folks. Happy New Year, Father Cory and Jimmy.
Well, Happy New Year.
You too, and to the listeners.
And we, as we enter the new year, I want to kind of mention just one of our other podcasts that you may be interested in. Jimmy and I have been producing the Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World for several months now, and it's a lot of fun. We think Star Trek fans would enjoy it, certainly.
Oh, yeah.
We cover a lot of ground, a lot of different things, whether it's supernatural phenomena, natural mysteries, political mysteries, historical things. We really cover it all. It's so much fun. I'm getting so much great feedback from people. And so you should check it out. Go to sqpn.com/mysterious, see what you think of the show. And I know what you're going to think. You're going to love it. So go check it out. So we're talking this time about clues. Last time we talked about Star Trek: The Next Generation. We talked about Encounter at Farpoint. Now we've jumped to season 4. This is round about the middle part of the Star Trek: The Next Generation run. This episode aired in February of 1991. So this is the show is well established now. The characters are well established. And
we've now hit the seasons where, for this time, we've hit the seasons where the show was regarded as, kind of firing on all cylinders.
Yes,
exactly.
And this, I think this episode is a good example of that. It's not perfect, of course, but it's a good, solid episode of Next Gen. It's got a bit of a unique premise, and definitely a Star Trek wrap up to it, a Star Trek sort of solution to the issue of the week. So the basic premise is the crew of the Enterprise wakes up after apparently passing through a wormhole, finding mysteries surrounding their blackout. Data is acting suspiciously. Frankly, when is he not? And it prompts the command staff to wonder, has Data been compromised in some way? So,
maybe the data has been corrupted.
Yes, the data has been corrupted. That's very good. We have one thing I want to point out is first the script for this episode was sent in by a fan. Actually, it's a spec script sent by a fan, not from the writing staff. And the producers liked it and took it in and they had to rewrite it a bit because the script included Wesley, who a few episodes ago departed for Starfleet Academy and that sort of thing. But in general, this is pretty much a fan idea, which is an interesting one.
And that's something that Star Trek is rather unique in, that it has accepted fan submissions. Beginning, I don't know, even in the original series they did some of that, but particularly beginning with The Next Generation, they made a point of opening solicitations to members of the fan community. And most TV shows do not do that. They have their writing staffs, and the writing staff people are the only ones who get to contribute.
Right. Mm-hmm. And in fact, in the early days of social media and online, activity, the bulletin boards, a lot of times producers and writers had to say, look, you cannot pitch stuff to me. You can't mention ideas to me, or I have to leave for legal reasons, because, we could get sued for stealing your idea, even if we come up with something that's similar. But this was a case where a fan submission was actually accepted. And it's also what was called a bottle show. Which means sort of like ship in a bottle. It's shot on existing sets. No new sets had to be built, with no guest actors, just the regular crew of actors, which was frankly a money saver.
That's why TV series do bottle shows, is so that they can save money.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's whenever you have just a ship-based episode or an episode in an office, like if it's an office-based show or whatever, they can crank those out a lot quicker, a lot easier, a lot cheaper.
Like a clip show.
I should mention, and clip shows are another cost-saving device. They're the reason that programs do clip shows, with the exception of the bottle show episode of Community and the clip show episode of Community, because Community was such a meta, bizarre comedy series that when they did a bottle episode, it was specifically to take the concept of a bottle episode and turn it on its head. And when they did a clip show, it was, again, to turn the concept of a clip show on its head. So all of the clips they showed us were brand new footage we had never seen before.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Good. So the way it starts, so the teaser is we have the captain's log. Picard is saying that they just had a mission at Arrakis 5, and now the crew of the Enterprise has some downtime for people to pursue personal interests.
Specifically, what he says is that they're pursuing the leisure activities that are a normal part of life aboard the Enterprise. Yeah, that's so believable.
Yeah, the normal part of life on the Enterprise is red alert. Not much leisure time on the Enterprise. So
was it Star Trek or the Love Boat? I couldn't figure out which.
Well, there was yoga on the Lido deck with the Worf.
It lurches inconsistently between the Love Boat and Red Alert.
So I like the Klingon Tai Chi that was going on, that Worf was leading.
It just kind of reinforced the idea that the Enterprise D was just a giant flying resort hotel in space.
Right.
With powerful weaponry.
Now, of course, the important bit here is we had revealed that Dr. Crusher was conducting an experiment with Diomedian scarlet moss. Oh, not Diomedian scarlet moss. Yes, Diomedian scarlet moss, which Picard immediately recognizes later on. I thought that was kind of funny. But the big one, which is a bit of a misdirection, because I thought this was going to be a Dixon Hill episode, which is Picard and Guinan. He decides to show Guinan the Dixon Hill program, holodeck program, and we have this whole big scene that starts. But it's really a setup for Picard to talk about, pursuing clues and mysteries that we, and finding clues everywhere.
And Whoopi Goldberg was available for a cameo, so why not?
Exactly.
Right. Her occasional.
I did like, her persona as Gloria from Cleveland.
Yes.
That was nice. I what I really like, though, is where Dixon Hill's secretary is talking on the phone, because Data, instead of using the intercom,
right,
has phoned his Dixon Hill's fictional office in the holodeck.
Yes.
And we hear the secretary saying, "There's no Captain Picard here. Maybe you should try down at the docks. There's lots of captains down there." And so which would make sense in the port of San Francisco.
Right. And also there's this moment where like Guinan she's trying to become part of the story, but she can't get in. Like the secretary, nope, you're not allowed in. Nope, he's not taking any visitors. Nope. And then she calls in, nope, never heard no Gloria from Cleveland. And it's like, hey, like what's going on? Why? I'm trying to be part of your thing. And when she goes in, he's being held at gunpoint, and we hear Patrick Stewart do the worst Brooklyn accent ever, like worse than mine. It's terrible. So maybe Patrick Stewart did it on purpose to do it.
Oh, I'm sure that was absolutely done on purpose to just mock the fake accents.
So
his Brooklyn accent was better than Dick Van Dyke doing a Cockney accent. I mean, it was less painful.
Yes, much that is less painful. Or me doing a Scottish accent. So,
by the way, why? So when Data finally gets through to him, it's because they found an unusual star, and they're going to launch a probe at it. And for that, you got to interrupt the captain in the rec room? Well,
no, it was... they found a Class M planet orbiting a T Tauri type star, which which is extremely unusual. Like the star itself wasn't unusual, but protocol or orders demand that they go investigate. And so
right this minute, I mean,
well, I think they were passing by, weren't they?
Basically, yeah. I mean, they found it out kind of on extended sensors and wanted to go in to look closer.
Well, yeah. So I mean, unless they're racing somewhere at warp 9.8, they're going to be cruising past this thing for a while if it's on long range sensors.
Right. It's
just a minor flaw in the writing.
Yeah, it sounds so much more urgent that the captain must get to the bridge immediately. Of course, having time to go back and change first.
Well, that always happens, doesn't it? Whenever anyone's on the holodeck, they get called somewhere. It's a red alert, and then they do they go through the Batman pole slide, and they show up in their uniform.
They really, it's like Superman. They actually have their uniform on underneath the suit, so he just rips the suit off, and there's the uniform.
It's a holographic uniform that disintegrates when they walk out of the holodeck.
There you go. The Dixon Hill. Yeah. See, I don't understand why they. Well, never mind. Well, that's a whole nother discussion about the holodeck. But yes. So they approach this nebula with this star, with this planet, and a wormhole shows up, an unstable wormhole. Which then disappears and flings the starship half a parsec away and knocks everybody unconscious, except for Data. And then as we come back from the opening, because that's the teaser, now we have the opening of the show, everyone wakes up, and the Data tells them, "Oh, you only been unconscious for 30 seconds." And so Picard has them, he says, well, maybe we need to go back and check out what happened and what's going on. And Data dissuades them. Maybe we should launch a probe. Okay, launch a probe. We get the probe out there, and, so on and so forth. We get this. It really isn't a Class M planet. It's this other kind of planet that's totally not the type of thing we need to see. We should move on.
There's nothing to see here doing the Jedi mind tricks,
I know. If only they had some Jedi on board, this would have worked a lot better. But we get these clues we see Worf cradling his wrist suspiciously throughout this episode. And he does this right from the very beginning. I don't know if you noticed this, but standing behind Picard and Riker up at his little console, he's holding his wrist. Sort of looks funny. And then we get the Dr. Crusher's rapidly growing moss that shouldn't have shown a full day's growth. That's the first big clue.
And Data would be all like, "This isn't the Diomedian scarlet moss you're looking for."
Right. Yeah. Right.
It must be some rapid growing version of it. Yeah, sure.
No. I have an explanation for why that could not possibly be so. And then Data offers this like ridiculous, obscure theory that nobody buys. And then Picard does this most obvious, like, I needed a way to get rid of Data, like sort of, hey, somebody needs some help with something down on deck 36. Hey, make sure when he gets down there that they're expecting him. I hope that guy like didn't go, I don't need you for nothing. What do I need you for? And then
I like how he asked Geordi, give me your opinion. Did you buy any of that? And Geordi's like, not for a minute. I'm amazed he even proposed it.
I know that was such baloney. That was crazy. Well, you couldn't come up with a better explanation on the spot.
One of the things this episode reveals is Data is a terrible liar.
Yes.
I mean, even after they start to confront him about it, he's like, I'm sorry, I can't answer that. Well, here's one possibility. And he's just a terrible liar.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a poker face mostly all the time, but it's a suspicious poker face. Like it's so blank that like something's going on.
Well, and just the Substance of what he comes back with, it just invites more suspicion.
Right. Yeah. It's like you'd have to be blind and deaf to not catch that something is up with Data in this instance. And we keep getting these clues.
And I think that actually it was good writing on the part of the author, the writers, where instead of Data just going, boy, that is strange. I wonder how that happened. Must not be any big deal.
Right.
He had him where he kept floundering around.
Well, one of the things that I was watching this with Melanie, and she said, if they were out for 24 hours, as we're beginning to suspect by this point, like, wouldn't their beards have grown? Wouldn't they be starving? Like, wouldn't they be hungry?
Which, of course, they explicitly mentioned.
Right. Yeah. Well, so I think, did Data run around shaving everybody quickly before they woke up? I don't know, but it is nice that actually that they did have Geordi come right up and say, that.
Why
to bring
didn't
that
our beards
up.
grow?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and the answer being they were all in biochemical stasis, which would also explain why they weren't hungry or thirsty or didn't have other physical needs, because biologically they were in stasis the whole time.
Now, perhaps they addressed this, but I quickly with some of the technology talk. But if they were out for 24 hours, wouldn't they be out of sync with Starfleet and the rest of the galaxy?
Data did the wormhole affected our time space, blah blah blah. So we just resync with the nearest star base and life is good.
So we've lost.
That is one of the complaints I have with this episode, though.
Yeah,
is eventually you would think at some point somebody would be reviewing the logs of the Enterprise D and going, wait a second, there's a 3-day period here, because of course they did this twice.
Right.
There's a 3-day period here where the Enterprise is out of sync with us. What's going on here? Something happened.
I think that's taken care of by the fact that when they try this, Data manipulates the Enterprise's internal clocks. And so there wouldn't be a record of the time period that they're out of communication. So going over the logs wouldn't help.
Well, but it would show that they're out of sync.
The logs would have a 3-day blank period.
Or be behind by 3 days.
No logs being made at all.
But then that would be explained by the wormhole, right? Because it's like we just came out of this wormhole. That's why there's a 3-day inconsistency with the Federation time base,
right?
Fair enough.
You have to buy that the wormhole would mess with the time, and that no one could figure out, that no one would go study. Hey, this wormhole that could make us lose 3 days. We should go study that.
We're getting into Doctor Who wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey.
Yes.
Although the fact, they do talk about at the end, let's send a hazard warning over this area so people don't go mess with the wormhole.
Right. There was a nice moment where Picard asked it, could someone have tampered with you without you knowing? And he's not able to answer that because how would he know? Maybe they can. I don't know. If they tamper with me, I wouldn't know.
And this is really where kind of the episode turns, is where Picard starts to directly confront Data and say, what's going on? You've been blocking every attempt one way or another, every attempt we've been making to figure out what happened here. And Data tries to evade several different ways, and Picard has some interesting tactics before he gets up to the point of giving Data a direct order, he'll ask for like explanations, and then he turns things around and says, well, if you were in my position, what would you do in this situation?
Right.
And Data says, well, I appear to have committed all these, crimes and violations of regulations. Your duty seems clear. And he doesn't say it. And I didn't like this piece of the writing. He should have said, you should court-martial me. But Picard, that is what he's thinking, because Picard then says, do you know what a court-martial would mean? Your Starfleet career would be over, and you would probably be stripped down to your wires to find out what happened.
Right.
Yep. And so we get some interesting stakes on the table at this point.
That kind of goes. I want to know whether this episode occurred before or after the episode where we sort of declared whether Data is a person or not. Remember, they had that episode where he's on trial for his life, and I don't remember.
That episode was The Measure of a Man. I think it was earlier than this.
That's what I thought. Which would
I thought that was first or second season. I think that was pretty early on.
So that raises some interesting sentient rights questions for Data.
It was second season.
If he is a sentient being with all the rights that any human or Vulcan or Andorian has, the idea that not only would you be court-martialed, but they would disassemble you to find out what went wrong. That's like saying, and then you're to a human, we're going to court-martial you, then we're going to dissect you to find out why your brain made you do what you did. I mean, that seems to be problematic.
And Picard doesn't say that will happen. He raises it as a possibility. One can rationalize that several different ways. I mean, one of them is, well, being an android, they can strip him down to his wires and then put him back together again.
Exactly.
So it would be the equivalent of an intensive investigation to find out what happened. And one could also say, if he's been compromised in this way, such that something other than him is interfering, then he's not acting as a responsible agent with rights anymore. He's a compromised machine that needs to be investigated to find out what will happen with this technology in the future. Which
then kind of mitigates against the claim that he should have all the same rights to personal inviolability.
Well, that was always stupid. Data is a toaster.
So stay tuned for our discussion of Measure of a Man, folks, because that'll be a good one. So in the 4 seasons that we've had Deanna Troi on board, we've progressed a little bit in her character development, but still we get her wincing in pain at various unseen promptings. As I said, when she winces, is there something wrong, Deanna? It's as if a million voices cried out at once and were silenced. It looked very much like Obi-Wan there going on, but we did, so we still get some of that. We at this point still with her, we're still getting this.
Yeah,
Deanna is the emotional center.
Better.
Yeah,
at least in this episode, she gets something useful to do by becoming possessed woman. And so I was happy for her for that. Normally we have a lot of Deanna Troi stuff is kind of painful because as a character she wasn't very well thought out, and I made the point before that lying is not an emotion, so she shouldn't be able to detect it if she's an empath. So she doesn't need to vanish from the bridge every time someone is telling Captain Picard a lie. But she's like the inconsistent sonic screwdriver. Her abilities work whenever the plot requires them to, and whenever they would work too well, then the plot requires her not to have them available or for her not to be on the bridge.
Right.
Darn that half human side that she has.
Well, so I mean, are we assuming that the reason that she is the conduit for these aliens is because of her telepathic nature?
Yeah, I assume it's because she's the most telepathic crew member, so she was the easiest person for the Paxons to use as a communicator.
Okay, and so Data, he's very solidly sticks to his story the whole way through, right up to the point where the alien
possessed
Indiana
lady shows up on the bridge,
and then he just shifts gears like, okay, we're done with playing that game. Where now I can reveal to you exactly what happened. and he basically tells the truth of, we need to get out of here. We need to fix this. And I found it interesting. The solution was as once Picard understood and Riker understood, there was, okay, we have to figure out a way for us to forget again. Like, there was never a case of, we need to find a way to defeat the Paxons or defeat their technology or resist them in some way, that we have some right to, or that they had some innate disturbance with the idea of having their memories messed with.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were going to say that you were surprised that Captain Picard didn't say, oh, wow, you're right. Now that this didn't work, the Prime Directive requires that we allow you to kill us all.
Right.
Yeah. We have to die. You're right.
Right. Well, that's the other problem with the Prime Directive. But yeah, I mean, that they didn't react against this idea that somehow they need to be, that they have in some ways an obligation to the truth, to preserving the reality, or to the personal, inviolability of not only of their own memories, but of their obligations to Starfleet to this information.
Well, so I part of this may be running time issues because they couldn't really stop to have a big debate about this. But I think that I think this is being driven by the Prime Directive, because Picard alludes to the right to privacy that the Paxons have as racial xenophobes. And certainly they're a foreign power, and he would even without the Prime Directive, he would be negotiating with a foreign power without Federation authorization to propose that he take knowledge back to the Federation of them.
Yeah.
And I think the Federation Council would look at the situation and say he made the right decision. If somehow this came out later, they would say, no, you did the right thing. This is what you should have done, is let your memories be wiped. And then if at some future point we make contact with these people and are able to establish a relationship with them, it won't be marred by you having subverted the initial relationship and their initial desire for privacy. So I think he made the right call in terms of just on a Federation policy level. Right.
And we have to hope that whatever warning beacon they put out there does not malfunction, that it keeps people away, because it could lead to people getting killed if it didn't. That's one of the concerns.
Although most of them probably don't have an android with a positronic brain on their ship.
Well, that's true.
I do kind of think the ending was sloppy. Mm-hmm. Because basically the solution was, well, let's do the same exact thing, just make less mistakes this time.
Right. With the assumption that you can fix every problem, everything that came up.
Well, they don't have to fix everything. Well, they need to fix enough that they don't return again. Right. And they didn't fix everything, because Picard immediately says, let's turn around and go look at this. And Data has to patch that by saying, oh, why don't we just send a probe?
Right.
Which they then do. So, so they just need to get enough right that it made sense to me that, okay, let's treat this as a shakedown voyage and hammer the bugs out of the system and do it again.
Right. Oh, and the Paxton seemed very forgiving, frankly, right there. You're a most unusual species, worthy of a second chance. Proceed. Like, all of a sudden, we're okay with you now.
Good.
For homicidal, xenophobic paranoids, they are remarkably accommodating.
Exactly. Well, the fact that they give them a first chance at all without just blowing them out of the sky to begin with, I mean, hey.
This shows that they actually have some morality, that they have a sense of right and wrong, and that we may be xenophobes. We don't just destroy people. We like to send them on their way, or what
we want to be left alone, but we also aren't going to do anything to you.
Right. So to that degree, I'm okay with that.
I do like at the ending, the final shot of the episode where we're focusing in on Data, and he's just looking forward at his station at the view screen, and we know, the audience, what he knows,
right,
which is everything that just happened, but none of the other characters in the show know it. And so we and Data of everyone in the Star Trek universe share knowledge that nobody else in the Federation has, and that's kind of a neat feeling.
I did like that. That's that idea that only Data remembers, and he carries that with him, presumably to the end of Star Trek Nemesis.
Yeah. Now, or even beyond, or before.
Yes.
The thing that I don't get, and this is, I guess, one of the conceits of the episode, but so Data has a brain that is easier to manipulate than ours. I mean, just look at all those big blinking lights on it.
And wires.
Why can't the Paxtons just delete his memory like they did from the Enterprise computer?
Well, they needed him to do it, apparently, they needed him to mess with the time program, is what it was.
But even then, that's really make work for Data, because what their plan was you disable everybody on the ship, you board the ship, you rewrite whatever you need to so that it looks like there's been no time gap, and then you throw them half a parsec away. And so they had and Data makes the point, they have the ability to manipulate matter on many levels, and they were apparently going to board the ship before Data woke everybody up and make all of these changes themselves.
That's true. That's true. That is a small hole, but you can't get these perfect. So did you guys have any other notes on this episode you want to bring up that I didn't share?
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun little, mystery.
Yeah. Straightforward episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since I watched this, the last time. So it took me a while to remember exactly what was going on, and it's fun to kind of approach it from the perspective of what's going on here and what's the mystery and how does it all work. And there's a nice little mystery in this one, so that's good. So we have a little bit of feedback. We on our episode on Star Trek: The Motion Picture. We have our listener Les Hammer wrote on Facebook, very simply said, "My friends call this not Star Trek: The Motion Picture, Star Trek: The Motion Sickness," which works on a couple levels, I suppose. James
I thought he was going to say Star Trek: The Unmotion Picture because of how slow it is.
The motionless picture.
Yeah.
So James Dollard commented on YouTube. He says, I was a TOS fan from back in the 60s. I so looked forward to enjoying this film when it first came out when I was in college. I enjoyed watching the reveal when we first saw the ship. I really wanted to like this film. Then I fell asleep in the theater.
Yeah.
But they finally redeemed themselves with Wrath of Khan. Yes, Wrath of Khan. Many people say Wrath of Khan is their favorite Star Trek film. And it's hard to disagree with that.
Certainly one of the best three.
Yes, yes, in the top three. So that's it for our feedback, and that's it from us this week. So what, folks, what did you think of this Star Trek The Next Generation episode called Clues? Let us know, and let us know what you think of what we had to say about it by going to sqpn.com/trek or the SQPN Facebook page and find the link to this episode and leave some feedback there. Or you can send us an email to trek@sqpn.com, and you can find links to relevant to our discussion on our show notes at sqpn.com. We'll be back next week when we'll be discussing, let me get this straight, the Season 2 3-part opener for Deep Space Nine. So the beginning of Season 2 of Deep Space Nine had 3 episodes that were an arc called The Homecoming, The Circle, and The Siege. We're probably going to cover that in 2 episodes, folks, so part 1 and a part 2, because it'll... So
Season 2, 3-part opening, DS9 in 2 episodes.
Exactly.
I think all that math works.
Somehow that adds up to Star Trek, Secrets of Star Trek. So until then, Father Corey Stika, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of Star Trek.
Well, thank you, Dom.
Jimmy Aiken, thank you as well.
Thanks, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest. And remember, to many humans, a mystery is irresistible. It must be solved.